You know what? This hearing is actually the best example of what waste, fraud, and abuse looks like, because the only reason we're having this hearing is because somebody got their feelings hurt in a debate. And I don't understand why we're wasting taxpayer dollars. Next time, tell your big boy to show up and be ready to handle the woman in the room who hopefully will become the next president of the United States. Nevertheless, while we do have two amazing authors from Project 2025, which it seems like everybody got the memo, like, yes, I'm going to double down and say it's my thing, but I'm going to make sure I also say that it ain't our homeboys thing, because we know that it doesn't poll very well with the American people, because the American people are woke enough to recognize that there is nothing good in it for them. So with that being said, Ms. Perryman, I'm just curious, and this is yes or no. Is Trump's name ever mentioned in Project 2025? Yes or no? Just yes or no. I got you. I got you.
Within the document itself,
yes.
There are a number of references to the former administration.
So is Trump's name mentioned just one time?
I believe it's mentioned more.
Okay. 5 times.
I haven't counted.
Oh, okay. Well, if I told you that his name is mentioned approximately 312 times, would you have any reason to dispute that?
I don't have any reason.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's interesting that we want to try to pretend. We're not going to pretend in here. We're going to work with facts and not fiction.
You can actually see the fear in right-wingers' eyes every time Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett gets on the mic.
So here's the bottom line. Absent major reforms, Vice President Harris's $42 billion program is wired to fail. It's time to correct course. Get rid of all the extraneous political goals and focus on quickly connecting Americans.
Now I'm actually going to talk about Texas, because I believe that the testimony has been somewhere around the fact that no money has actually been disputed as it relates to rural broadband. I'd also asked for unanimous consent to admit this article from the USDA.gov. USDA officials attend groundbreaking to expand high-speed internet access in rural Texas, dated March 7th, 2024, Italy, Texas.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you so much.
With respect, that was not the testimony.
Oh, I thought you said no dollars had been spent.
The largest single program.
My question is, did you not say
$42 billion.
Okay.
0 houses have been connected. There are other federal programs, including Trump-era ones, that right now are turning dirt and connecting.
Okay, so just to be clear, because I don't want the American people to be confused, because I was confused, because it almost seemed as if, considering the fact the name of this hearing is the failed policies, as if nothing had been done. But to clarify for those that are watching, you aren't saying that no dollars have been spent as it relates to rural broadband dollars under the Infrastructure Act, correct?
To be clear, for the signature effort, $42
yes
billion,
or no? Have any dollars been spent?
not a
$1.
single person has been connected. There's
That's not my question, though. My question was, have any
issues. Senator Ted Cruz from
Okay,
Texas
I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on.
that
I'm reclaiming my time at this point.
many of these
I'm
bills,
reclaiming my time, which means,
$100,000
Chairman, I'm going to
per location.
stop my time, because the witness is not.
Are you asking him a question, or are you?
No, I'm
reclaiming
not
the
asking
time?
him a question. I reclaim my time.
All right. The chair recognizes Ms. Crockett.
Okay, now I was at 41, y'all, so go back up.
We'll give
I
you
was
9
watching.
more seconds.
Okay, thank you so much. Here's the deal. You've testified a lot about the problem with the broadband rollout being diversity, equity, and inclusion. You said DEI, I don't know how many times, which is one of the issues that Project 2025 takes issue with. But it's interesting to me, because I have another article from the Texas Tribune, and it actually specifically states that internet providers say they are simultaneously hopeful and skeptical about whether the incoming federal dollars will be enough to connect the most underserved Texans. Historically, other federal rural broadband funding programs have seen limited success because many companies who committed to providing broadband went into default after radically underestimating their cost. It doesn't say anything about diversity. And the final thing that I will say is that this election, I didn't ask you a question. The final thing that I will say is that this election is the best example of why y'all are so afraid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because then you can't have a simple-minded, underqualified white man somehow end up ascending. Instead, you've got to pay attention to the qualified black woman that is on the other side. And with that, I will yield.
And this wasn't the end of FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr's total humiliation.
But I just wonder on that point whether any of the witnesses would comment on this unprecedented defection of former Trump officials from supporting him. And if anybody, you know, who is on the Project 2025 side wants to weigh in on that, or Ms. Perryman, what you say about Vice President Pence and these former cabinet officials who've abandoned Donald Trump. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think President Trump has spoken explicitly about the majority of these people were either running against him in the case of Vice President Pence, or they lost their job because.
Well, Pence wasn't running against him
And
when
gentlemen's
the
time's
mob came in
expired.
chanting "Hang Mike Pence." He was planning. He
Gentlemen.
ran with Donald Trump.
Many of the people
Gentlemen.
who Mr. Garcia referenced are people who were let go because they failed to fulfill the vision that President Trump had painted.
Oh, so
for
I
the
see.
American
There's nothing
people
wrong
and
with
that
what
they
Donald
had
Trump did. You're blaming it on these people.
Gentlemen's time's expired.
I'm just
Before
saying
I
they're more-
recognize
Yeah.
Ms.
like
Mays,
great
yes,
fire
before,
employees.
yes.
I respect it takes a lot to put yourself out there to come and testify in front of Congress. And I know that some of this ground has been covered before, and I really do appreciate the transparency that all of you have brought about your backgrounds, about your positions, and about your perspectives on the policy issues. But just to kind of put it all in one place, I want to quickly go through, and I'm going to mostly state it. I'll ask some questions as we go. Mr. Carr, I know you've said this has been asked and answered several times, but just, you know, going back, we know you're currently serving in the FTC. You've been serving there since 2017, since Donald Trump appointed you, and you are the author of the FCC chapter of 2025, Project 2025, correct? It's just a yes or no.
Well, so just to be clear, the
Yes, you are. Thank you. I appreciate it. Mr.
chapter that you
Krikorian.
reference was done in my personal capacity
Yes.
after
The
getting
answer is a yes. Yes, Mr.
clearance from the
Krikorian,
ethics council. I just want to clarify that wasn't in my official
Mr.
capacity.
Krikorian, you serve as the ED of the Center for Immigrant Studies. You are also on the advisory board of Project 2025. Your organization has been actually designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Dr. Hobbs, thank you for your service to this country. I understand you're a veteran and an academic. I do very much respect your background and your work. You're involved in the Independent Women's Forum, which is also involved in Project 2025. You've had a number of authors and contributors from the Women's Forum that are participants in Project 2025. And Ms. Gunasakara, I know we've already covered this, but you're a former chief of staff for the Trump administration at the EPA, and I think you've been very clear about your role in drafting the EPA section of Project 2025. So I think it's very clear this hearing is actually about Project 2025. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent to enter the entire Trump Project 2025 into the record so that the American people can have it at their disposal for reference for this hearing.
Very good. I don't think anyone on this side's ever read that, but apparently you all have, so we'll enter it into the record without objection. So ordered.
Thank you so much. And again, I just appreciate the transparency of this particular committee, because last week, right after the debate, we tried to enter it into the record in the House Natural Resources Committee, and 3 members on the GOP side of the aisle actually objected to putting it in the record. And I have to say, we were genuinely shocked, because I've never seen an objection to a UC to put evidence in the record. But it was very clear in that hearing that the GOP was trying to distance themselves from this document. So, you know, I think it's interesting that we're here today, where we've got the authors of the document, and I just want to say welcome to the American people to your campaign stop on the Donald Trump campaign. Here we are in the Oversight Committee, and we've got a bunch of former Trump and current Trump officials. We've got authors of Project 2025, which is the blueprint for the next presidential transition. And the last stop for the Trump campaign was the House floor last night, because Donald Trump asked the House GOP leadership to put a CR on the floor that they knew was not going to pass, that had a voter bill attached to it, and then he told everyone to vote against it. You know, we've seen over the last almost 2 years how leadership has used this committee essentially as a campaign resource. They tried to impeach Joe Biden, they tried to impugn his family, and now here we are, and we are just 48 days, 47 days until the election, and now they're trying to attack Kamala Harris and use the resources of this committee and to platform future Trump administration officials and their agenda, and to try to normalize what are frankly very extreme policies. And we heard from one of the witnesses today that, in fact, not only do they support dismantling our federal government, but would support doing even more damage than was done during the Trump administration and even what is recommended inside of this book.
New Mexico Representative Melanie Stansbury is 100% right. The House Oversight Committee is one of the most powerful panels in the entire House of Representatives, and it's never been more partisan than it is right now. The GOP has stacked the committee with some of the loudest, most deranged voices from across the MAGA movement, which is certainly saying something. And it also means that these hearings now give us all a glimpse of the stark choice that we face in November and a potential dark future to come. The House Oversight Committee's mission statement is to, quote, ensure the efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability of the federal government and all of its agencies. Simple stuff. But it's becoming increasingly obvious that these people don't want these federal agencies to exist at all. They certainly don't want them to function in a sane, rational way that actually delivers on policy for the American people. But that doesn't mean that they don't have goals. James Comer claims he's never read the Project 2025 Mandate for Leadership. And while 900 pages might be a lot for a man like Comer to read, there's no way that he's unaware of what's in the document. And Republicans can't plead ignorance when they're inviting the authors of a document that they claim to know nothing about to talk directly about the contents of that document. Thankfully, representatives like Jasmine Crockett and Melanie Stansbury are holding their feet to the fire and making sure the American people know what's really going on.
Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.